Hey, AC here. It's Video Friday, and today we're going to talk about continuous run. What is it and why use it? So stay tuned. Okay, one of the number one questions we get from our customers is, what is continuous run? Why does my compressor always run? It won't shut off. Well, hopefully today we can clear some of these mysteries up. So let's get started. First of all, how do I know when to use it, my continuous run? Well, typically if your compressor is going to cycle more than 5 times per hour, this may be a perfect spot for it. What causes it to cycle that much? Well, it's basically the use of a lot of CFM, such as a sandblaster, large air tools, using a blowgun. I would describe continuous run similar to a pickup truck that you're getting ready to haul a heavy load, or pull a trailer. There's a button on the shifter that basically has tow or haul. Well, the engineers, when they built the transmission, knew that sometimes you'd put that transmission under extreme load, and they built in factors for that. By just pressing the button, it changed the parameters of the transmission so they could handle that. Essentially, what we're doing with continuous run is when you put the compressor under more extreme load, we've got parameters built in to protect it. Let's move forward there. Okay, so what are the benefits? Well, one, it reduces the motor and related component wear. How we do that is the contactor, the on and off contactor now, is not being used nearly as much, so that's reducing wear. The centrifugal switch within a single-phase motor, which primarily most compressors are single-phase, is not getting used as much, and the arc going back and forth, so that's helping it. The motor starting capacitors are being used less. The reduction in inrush current is another big factor, because now the motor is going to run cooler. And it also is going to have lower electrical consumption. When that motor's starting from a dead stop or a rotor lock, the amp draw is significant. And when that amp draw is significant, that's hurting your peak demand in your electricity, and you're going to see it on your bill. Another thing that the continuous run does, it dissipates the pump heat. Because the intake air is traveling in and out of the piston with no compression, it serves as a cooling agent. So those are some of the benefits. Now, how to activate continuous run? Well, we've got a picture here of a pressure switch on and off, your typical switch. Basically what it's doing, it has a cut in and a cut out pressure. Cut out pressure, let's say, is at 160 pounds. When the compressor reaches 160, the compressor shuts off. The cut in is usually 35 pounds differential. So when it drops down to about 125, it's going to kick back on. Now, this is certainly adjustable, and we'll cover that in a later video. But if you notice your compressor is now cycling a lot, okay, now we're ready to go ahead and say continue the continuous run valve. Where's that at? It's typically underneath the compressor, just below the pump, and you're going to see it right here. And simply all you're going to do is raise this valve up, rotate it upward, and that will energize the pallet valve. Now, one thing I might want to note is that the pallet valve, cut in, cut out, is slightly below the pressure switch cut in and cut out. So when you turn that valve, it basically takes the electrical portion out of the equation. That's why it will run all the time, because you've put it in the continuous run mode. Okay, we showed you the cool things that continuous run can do for you. Now let's show you how it works. Before I begin, a colleague of mine just brought up the point, well, if continuous run is that big of a savings, why don't you use it all the time? Well, remember we said if you get 4 to 5 starts per hour, anything exceeding that, you probably want to use continuous run. Well, you reach a point where the payoff's not there. So basically, you're in under 4 or 5 an hour. Just use your traditional stop-start. So let's say we're sandblasting and we're ready to go. So let's go over here and turn the continuous run valve on that I showed you earlier. So what that's doing, it's allowing tank pressure to travel down this path, and it stops right here because it's met with this ball with spring resistance against it. Now, once we achieve cutout pressure, let's say that's 145 psi, the spring is overcome by tank pressure. This ball moves back. Now that the ball moves back, we've created a leak path. And that leak path then allows pressure, air pressure, to travel up the line to the head unloader. Inside the head unloader, you're going to see a piston. That pressure then drives the piston down with the valve fork, and this fork then holds the intake valve open, allowing air now to travel back and forth with no compression. It basically puts the compressor in a non-compression state. Now, what's happening is because it's freewheeling, the amp draw is 1/3 of that when it's running under pressure. So you're using very little energy. Another benefit is that the air traveling as the piston's moving up and down, the air pressure moving past that valve in and out of the breather dissipates the heat within the pump. So the operator's now expending the energy inside of the tank, and now the pressure's dropping. Suddenly the spring now overcomes the pressure within the tank, and now we've reached a cut-in pressure, which now brings the ball back and seals the air. Now that we depressurize the line going up to the unloader, that allows the head unloader plunger or piston to retract, bringing up the fork. No longer is the valve held open, and now the compressor's back under the compression state. So we've just done one cycle with the head unloader. Okay, to further illustrate how the continuous run operates, I've taken a cylinder head and I've cut it in half, exposing the intake valve. Now here's the unloader assembly I was talking about. Here's the unloader, here's the piston, and here's the fork. What I didn't show you was the valve itself. Now as that piston's coming up and the valve is closed, there's nowhere for the air to go other than the exhaust valve moving to the next chamber. But if we energize this piston, it opens the valve, creating a leak path for the compression to pass back through the intake in and out. And that's when it goes into the freewheel mode. Once we hit the cut-in pressure, this will close, allowing it now to pump again because there's no leak path forcing it out the exhaust. Okay, so hopefully that clears up a lot of the mystery around continuous run. So that's a wrap for today. So AC out.